The last laugh. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the United Earth Council, trying not to smile as she presented what many would consider the most ridiculous military proposal in human history. The holographic displays behind her showed graphs, charts, and what appeared to be comedy show ratings from the last century. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Council," she began, "the Galactic Confederation's trade embargo has been in effect for 8 months. Their assumption was that we'd either bend to their will or collapse. Instead, we're about to show them humanity's greatest weapon, our sense of humor." The council chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Chancellor Rodriguez leaned forward, his bushy eyebrows furrowed. "Admiral Chen, are you suggesting we combat an economic blockade with jokes?" "Not exactly, Chancellor. I'm suggesting we create the Strategic Humor and Innovation Task Force, HFY. We've discovered something remarkable about the electromagnetic fields generated by human laughter, something that makes our alien friends very, very nervous." The display behind her shifted to show readings from a recent first contact situation. The spikes in energy matched perfectly with moments of human laughter, and more importantly, with corresponding disruptions in alien technology. "Our research shows that the neural patterns generated by human humor create quantum ripples that interfere with most advanced alien tech. They've been so focused on stopping our ships and conventional weapons, they never considered we might weaponize our ability to find things funny." Dr. Patel, the head of xenobiology, stood up. "Admiral, are you telling us that dad jokes could be a viable military strategy?" "Better than that, Doctor. We've already begun modifying our ships with what we're calling hilarity drives. The more the crew laughs, the more power we generate. We've turned our entire understanding of warfare on its head. While they expect us to respond with anger or desperation, we're going to hit them with humanity's greatest hits, from slapstick to satire." The chamber's mood shifted as understanding dawned. The Confederation's species had evolved through purely logical paths. They had no concept of humor, no understanding of the chaotic nature of human creativity. Their systems were built on predictability and order. "The first HFY vessel is ready for deployment," Chen continued. "The UEA's chuckles. Her crew consists of our best. The embargo ends in 72 hours. Chen concluded. "That's when we launch Operation Punchline. And trust me, the Confederation won't know what hit them. Because how do you defend against an attack strategy that runs on pure, weaponized whimsy?" As the Council voted unanimously to approve the formation of HFY, Admiral Chen couldn't help but think that sometimes the best way to face a serious threat was to refuse to take it seriously. After all, humanity had survived this long not just because of their technology or their determination, but because of their unique ability to find light in the darkness and laughter in the face of adversity. The UES chuckles would launch in 3 days, carrying with it humanity's secret weapon, the power to make the universe laugh, whether it wanted to or not. Dancing with Dragons. The Calarian Empire's crystalline flagship, Eternal Resonance, hung in space like a frozen symphony. Captain Valthrix, her iridescent scales reflecting the starlight, watched with growing concern as the human vessel approached. Their intelligence had warned them about HFY, but surely the reports were exaggerated. "Unknown human vessel," she broadcast. "This is restricted space. The Calarian Empire stands with the Confederation. Retreat immediately or face sonic dissolution." The response came in the form of music, an ancient Earth rhythm that their databases identified as disco. The UEA's chuckles hull began to pulse with multicolored lights. "What are they doing?" Valthrix demanded. Her science officer's crystal antennae vibrated with confusion. "Captain, they're dancing." The Chuckles crew had indeed initiated what they called Operation Saturday Night Fever. The ship's specially modified hull plates vibrated in sync with the beat, creating harmonics that interfaced with the crystalline technology that powered the Calarian fleet. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge, watching her crew alternate between battle stations and dance moves. "All right, people, let's show them how we do the hustle." The Chuckles began executing a complex series of maneuvers that, when mapped in three-dimensional space, precisely matched the choreography of classic Earth disco moves. Each movement generated quantum harmonics that played havoc with Keylarian systems. Their attack pattern makes no sense. Valthrix's tactical officer reported, his crystalline form resonating with stress. It violates every known principle of space combat. That's the point, Chen murmured, executing a perfect spin in her command chair. Hit them with the bass drop. The Chuckles deployed its secret weapon, the Fump Cannon. Developed by combining Earth's most powerful subwoofers with quantum amplification technology, it sent waves of pure groove through space. The Keylarian ships, their crystalline structures attuned to precise frequencies, began to vibrate uncontrollably. Valthrix watched in horror as her crew started to inadvertently dance, their crystalline bodies responding to rhythms they couldn't comprehend. Stop this madness. This isn't how war is conducted. Oh, honey, Chen's voice came through clear and amused. This isn't war. This is a party. The Fump Cannon's effect intensified. Keylarian ships began to move in sync with the beat, their precise formations dissolving into what looked suspiciously like a conga line. Their attempts to maintain military discipline only made the situation more absurd. Captain, Valthrix's second-in-command reported, his voice vibrating with the rhythm. The humans have somehow weaponized fun. The Eternal Resonance's bridge crew watched helplessly as their ship's crystal matrix began to resonate with the music, internal lights pulsing in time with the beat. Emergency systems flashed warnings that were immediately incorporated into the light show. Tactical analysis, Valthrix demanded. Impossible to complete, Captain, her tactical officer replied, now swaying gently. Every time we try to analyze their attack pattern, they change the dance move. It's like they're improvising. Chen's voice came through again. Come on, Keylarians. Your ships are literally disco balls waiting to happen. Work with us here. The Eternal Resonance's crystal structure had indeed begun to refract the lights from the Chuckles, sending sparkles across the sector in a display that would have made any nightclub proud. Valthrix realized she faced a choice: maintain their rigid military protocol and risk their ships shaking apart from resonance, or, Captain, her science officer reported, I believe I'm experiencing what humans call getting down with it. Making perhaps the most unusual tactical decision in Keylarian military history, Valthrix stood from her command chair. If we can't beat them, she took a tentative dance step, finding that moving with the rhythm actually stabilized her crystalline form. Within hours, what had started as a potential battle had turned into the sector's first interstellar dance party. The Keylarian ships, their crystalline structures perfectly suited to light refraction, created displays that would be talked about for generations. Admiral Chen sent a final message to the Confederation. Next time you want to embargo Earth, remember, we're the species that turned warfare into a dance-off. Just wait until you see what we do with karaoke. The Keylarian Empire withdrew from the embargo the next day. In their official statement, they cited a newfound appreciation for alternative conflict resolution methodologies. Unofficially, they requested Earth's entire music catalog and began hosting weekly dance parties. Back on the Chuckles, Shen filed her report. Phase 2 complete. The galaxy is about to learn that humans don't just think outside the box. We turn the box into a boombox and start a revolution. The Coffee Gambit. Dr. Maya Patel stood in her lab aboard the UES Chuckles, staring at what might be humanity's most potent weapon yet, a cup of extra dark roast coffee. The liquid seemed to absorb light itself, and the lab's quantum sensors were giving readings that defied conventional physics. Tell me again, Admiral Chen said, eyeing the seemingly innocent beverage. How exactly did you discover this? Pure accident, Maya replied, taking a sip from her own cup. One of our engineers spilled their triple espresso on a quantum core simulator. Instead of shorting out, the machine started operating at 300% efficiency. Then it started vibrating through space-time. The Admiral raised an eyebrow. It did what now? Turns out caffeine, when properly energized, can create microscopic tears in reality. We're calling it the quantum cappuccino effect. The more stressed and caffeinated the crew is, the more powerful our ships become. Chen looked at the reports. The Confederation's embargo had cut off Earth's coffee supply, assuming it would weaken humanity's productivity. Instead, it had driven humans to develop new ways to concentrate and enhance caffeine, leading to what Maya's team called weapons-grade coffee. Status of Operation Overcharge? Chen asked. Maya gestured to the massive tanks being installed throughout the ship. We've converted half our water reserves into cold brew concentrate. The engine room is now technically the galaxy's largest coffee maker. Every crew member has been issued quantum-linked coffee mugs that directly feed their caffeine consumption into the ship's power grid. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Tommy Zhang was practically vibrating as he made adjustments to the new system. His team had been awake for 72 hours straight, sustained by what they called the blend, a coffee mixture so potent it had briefly achieved sentience before being consumed. The beautiful thing, Maya continued, is that the aliens can't replicate it. Their bodies can't process caffeine, so they can't generate the necessary quantum resonance. We've literally weaponized our addiction to staying awake. Chen reviewed the tactical implications. The Chuckles could now power its systems through a combination of human laughter, dance energy, and concentrated caffeine anxiety. It was perhaps the most ridiculously human weapon ever created. Time to test it, Chen decided. Set course for the Arcturian blockade. The Arcturians, renowned for their logical precision and complete lack of chemical stimulants, had maintained the tightest blockade against Earth shipping. Their massive vessels formed an impenetrable wall of advanced technology and tactical excellence. They weren't prepared for what happened next. The Chuckles dropped out of hyperspace in the middle of their formation, its hull literally buzzing with caffeinated energy. The crew, running on a mixture of coffee and pure spite, initiated what they called the Jitters Protocol. "What is happening?" demanded Arcturian Commander Vertox as the human ship began to rapidly phase in and out of normal space, leaving after images like someone who'd had way too much espresso. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "their power readings are impossible. They're simultaneously occupying multiple points in space-time. And are they playing something called coffee shop jazz?" The Chuckles' new drive system, powered by the combined coffee consumption of its crew, allowed it to flicker through reality like someone trying to sit still after their 8th cup of the day. Traditional targeting systems couldn't lock onto a ship that was quantum jittering. "Full power to the coffee core," Zhang called from engineering, his voice several octaves higher than normal. "Release the emergency cold brew reserves." The ship's power spiked as the crew collectively reached what Maya called peak caffeine consciousness. Reality began to warp around the Chuckles as hundreds of humans, hopped up on weapons-grade coffee, simultaneously achieved a state of quantum uncertainty. The Arcturians watched in horror as their carefully maintained blockade formation was disrupted by a single ship moving with the erratic energy of a college student during finals week. Their attempts to predict the Chuckles' movement patterns were futile. You can't predict the behavior of something powered by sleep deprivation and liquid productivity. They're rewriting physics through sheer nervous energy, Vertox realized. This violates every known law of science. "That's because you've never pulled an all-nighter," Chen replied through the comm. "Humanity runs on coffee, and now, so do our ships. Want to see what happens when we switch to espresso mode?" The Chuckles' external plating began to vibrate at frequencies that made the Arcturians' teeth itch. The ship was literally thrumming with caffeinated power, creating a wake of quantum distortions that looked suspiciously like coffee rings in the fabric of space. "This is your last chance," Chen announced to the blockade. "Withdraw your ships, or we'll show you what happens when we engage the French press drive." The Arcturians, faced with a weapon they couldn't understand and didn't want to comprehend, chose the better part of valor. As their ships retreated, they transmitted a single question: "What are you?" "We're humans," Shen replied, taking a long sip from her quantum-linked mug. "We turned our greatest weakness, our dependence on caffeine, into our strongest weapon. And we're just getting started." As the Chuckles set course for its next target, Maya's team began work on their next project, weaponizing procrastination-induced panic energy. After all, nothing defies physics quite like a human rushing to meet a deadline. Meme warfare. Lieutenant Rick Martinez stood before the HFY High Command, his presentation titled Operation You Wouldn't Get It. Behind him, a series of what appeared to be cat pictures with text overlays floated in holographic display. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "we've successfully weaponized humor, dance, and caffeine. Now it's time to deploy humanity's most powerful psychological weapon, memes." Admiral Chen leaned forward, intrigued. "You want to fight an interstellar war with internet jokes?" "Not just any internet jokes," Martins grinned. "We've developed quantum-entangled memes. When an alien tries to understand why a picture of a cat asking for a cheeseburger is funny, it creates a cascading logic paradox in their hyper-rational minds." The display shifted to show the results of their first test. A Confederation eye had spent 3 weeks trying to understand why humans found Doge memes amusing before experiencing what the tech team called a philosophical blue screen of death. "The beauty of it," Martins continued, "is that the more they try to analyze the memes, the funnier humans find their confusion, which then gets incorporated into new memes about their confusion, creating an infinite feedback loop of incomprehension." The UES Chuckles had been retrofitted with what Martins called the meme cannon, a quantum broadcast system that could beam concentrated cultural confusion directly into enemy communications networks. Their first target, the Xorlian Collective, an ancient civilization of pure logic and order. The Xorlian flagship, Rational Discourse, detected the Chuckles approaching their space. Supreme Logician 6427 prepared to engage what they assumed would be another primitive human attack. Instead, their communication screens were suddenly filled with thousands of images. Cats asking about cheeseburgers, frogs on unicycles, rickrolls, and something particularly devastating called loss. "What is the meaning of this?" Zix427 demanded. "The humans are transmitting nonsensical images," their communication officer reported. "They appear to be making references to other nonsensical images. Our cultural analysis systems are detecting layers of irony that shouldn't be possible." The Chuckles began broadcasting what they called vintage memes, advice animals, rage comics, and deep-fried images that had been enhanced with quantum encryption. Each transmission was accompanied by what humans called shitposting, a form of communication that seemed to actively resist logical analysis. "Their transmissions make no sense," the science officer reported, their logical matrices starting to smoke. "They're communicating through deliberately corrupted images and intentionally misspelled words. There appears to be an entire sublanguage based on the letter E." Martinez watched with satisfaction as the Xorlian ships began to display signs of cognitive distress. Their attempts to understand why humans found stonks funny were causing cascading failures in their logical processing systems. "Sir," the Xorlian tactical officer reported, "they're now transmitting something called cursed images. I don't understand. Why would someone Photoshop that many bees into? My logic circuits can't." The officer's screen displayed the dreaded loss.chg, a meme so layered with meta-commentary and ironic reinterpretations that it had once caused a supercomputer to begin questioning its existence. Zix427 watched in horror as their mighty fleet was reduced to confusion by what appeared to be deliberately bad photoshops and recursive jokes. How do you fight an enemy whose communication method actively defies rational analysis? "That's the neat part," Martinez transmitted back. "You don't." The Chuckles deployed its ultimate weapon, a quantum-enhanced compilation of dad jokes combined with deep-fried memes, all set to "Never Gonna Give You Up." The Xorlians' collective consciousness experienced what humans might call an existential blue screen of death. Your civilization spans millennia. Martinez broadcast to the failing Xorlian systems. You've mastered the laws of physics, achieved technological perfection, but you never learned to embrace the absurd. You never learned to laugh at a cat asking for cheeseburgers at 3 a.m. As the Xorlian fleet retreated, their processors overwhelmed by trying to understand why humans found keyboard cat amusing, Martinez sent one final transmission, a dancing cockroach gif with the text, "Get wrecked." Admiral Chen watched the Xorlian ships flee, their once perfect formation now as chaotic as a keyboard smash. "Lieutenant, I believe you've just weaponized the entire history of human internet culture." "Not just weaponized it," Martinez grinned. "We've transcended it. The aliens can't adapt to our memes because they keep evolving. They're trying to apply logic to something that was born from sleep deprivation and collective human creativity." The Chuckles crew celebrated their victory by creating new memes about the Xorlians' confusion, which were immediately added to the ship's weapons database. After all, the only thing funnier than a meme is a meme about someone not understanding memes. The final punchline. The Galactic Confederation's Supreme Council had convened an emergency session. Representatives from 100 species gathered to address what they were calling the human situation. The chamber buzzed with nervous energy, and in some cases, residual effects from exposure to Earth's weaponized comedy. High Chancellor Zixis of the Logical Concordat stood to speak, though his normally pristine robes still sparkled faintly from the aftermath of the dance battle. "We must address the human problem. They've turned our embargo against us using methods that defy all rational analysis. Their ships run on laughter," mumbled a Kilarian representative, their crystalline forms still occasionally pulsing in rhythm to remembered disco beats. "They weaponized beverages," added an Arcturian, twitching slightly from phantom caffeine exposure. "They broke our eye with pictures of cats," a Xorlian delegate whispered, their logic circuits still struggling to process why humans found keyboard cat entertaining. Admiral Chen chose that moment to make humanity's entrance. The UES Chuckles materialized in the center of the council chamber, an impossible feat that violated at least 12 laws of physics and several council bylaws about proper meeting protocol. "Sorry we're late," Chen announced, stepping onto the council floor. "We would have been here sooner, but we were procrastinating productively." The ship behind her hummed with the combined power of coffee-enhanced quantum drives, mean generation engines, and what appeared to be a small dance party happening on the bridge. "This is unprecedented," Zixis declared. "You can't just." "Can't just what?" Chen interrupted, taking a sip from her quantum-linked coffee mug. "Can't just ignore your embargo by turning our cultural quirks into weapons. Can't just rewrite the laws of physics because we think they're more like guidelines anyway. Can't just show up at your serious political meeting in a ship powered by dad jokes." She gestured to Dr. Maya Patel, who stepped forward with a holographic presentation. "Let me show you what humanity has actually been doing while you were all trying to force us to play by your rules." The display showed a complex web of quantum interactions, cultural exchanges, and what appeared to be cat videos. But as the presentation continued, patterns began to emerge from the apparent chaos. "Every illogical action we took was calculated," Maya explained. "The dance battles with the Kilarians. They're now the galaxy's leading experts in quantum harmonics. The caffeine-powered ships. We just proved that consciousness can directly affect quantum states. Even our meme warfare demonstrated principles about information theory that your scientists are just beginning to understand." Lieutenant Martinez added, "While you were all trying to figure out why we found things funny, we were using humor as a tool to probe the fundamental nature of intelligence and consciousness. Turns out, the ability to understand a dad joke is linked to some pretty important cognitive developments." The council chamber was silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just been defending themselves. They'd been conducting the galaxy's most elaborate scientific experiment. "You see, Chen continued, when you tried to isolate us, you forgot something fundamental about humanity. We don't just overcome obstacles, we turn them into opportunities. You gave us an embargo. We gave the galaxy quantum physics powered by coffee. You tried to force us to be serious. We showed you that laughter can literally alter reality. She gestured to the chuckles, its hull still thrumming with the power of 1,000 memes. Every illogical thing we did advanced our understanding of the universe. We weren't just being random. We were proving that creativity, humor, and human unpredictability are fundamental forces just as powerful as gravity. The council members looked at each other, a new understanding dawning. The humans hadn't been fighting their embargo. They'd been using it as a catalyst for the most significant scientific and cultural revolution the galaxy had ever seen. So here's our proposal, Chen announced. End the embargo, and we'll share everything we've learned. Let humanity join the galactic community on our own terms. Because let's face it, a galaxy where ships can run on laughter and quantum physics can be enhanced by coffee is a much more interesting place to live. High Chancellor Zixes stood, his expression unreadable. And if we refuse? Chen smiled. Then we'll show you what happens when we weaponize human creativity at full power. Did you know we've been experimenting with quantum-entangled interpretive dance? The vote to end the embargo was unanimous. Within a year, the galaxy had changed dramatically. Kilarian ships now came equipped with dance floors. Arcturian scientists had cautiously begun studying the effects of caffeine on spacetime, and even the Xorlians had developed a rudimentary appreciation for cat videos. As for the UES Chuckles and its crew, they continued to push the boundaries of what was possible when you combined human ingenuity with a complete disregard for conventional wisdom. After all, in a universe infinite in its possibilities, sometimes the most logical choice is to embrace the absurd. Admiral Chen's final report to Earth Command read simply, "Mission accomplished. Turns out the best way to make friends in this galaxy is to show them that sometimes the joke is the point, and that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons, but our ability to find humor, joy, and creativity in even the darkest of spaces. Also, the Xorlians have requested our entire collection of reaction GIFs for research purposes. The galaxy would never be the same. But then again, that had been the point all along."